5 ways that video games are going to help your kids get into college, from licensed marriage and family therapist and playful parenting expert Roya Dato. One of the big things that parents come and talk to me about that they're scared of is that video games are going to get in the way of their kids' success later in life. So video games, they're worried that the time they spend on them is going to prevent them from getting into college or doing well in college. And I want to tell you the opposite is in fact true. Video games are going to be helpful to your kids. The skills they learn in video game play are going to be helpful to your kids. So here's why. Let's jump in. First one is research. Have you ever seen a kid try to figure something out in a video game that they don't know about? Research. They know that they have to dive in, that they have to go look at other materials that have been provided. They have to go find the source. They understand, and they have a definite head start when it comes to understanding the importance of sharing those resources and diving in to figure out how to solve a problem. So, big one. The second one is a challenge mindset. And I mean challenge versus a threat mindset. When we get into a difficult situation, one of those two things happens. And when we get into a threat mindset, basically we feel like we're being attacked. We hunker down, everything gets very narrow. We go into like fight, flight, or freeze mode, right? Sometimes we get anxious, but we feel like our happiness or our well-being is under attack. And that makes us unable to think creatively. And big important thing for college is it makes us stop being able to learn. We do not learn when we are in a threat mindset. We might react, but we don't learn. A challenge mindset, on the other hand, we know it's difficult, we know it's hard, but we feel like we're up to the challenge. We know what our skills are, what our strengths are, what our resources are, and we are not afraid of trying and failing and trying again. It's a challenge that we believe that we have the skills to take on. And video games are designed for that mindset. They're designed to meet you at your challenge, or at your skill level. So as your skills get better, the challenge rises, and it keeps stepping stair like that. And so this prepares us for being able to see difficult tasks as a challenge, and that we have what it takes to get through that challenge. Speaking of challenges, one of the biggest struggles that my students have had in the past is getting handed a semester's coursework and then freezing, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to take on a really big task like a class or a degree, not knowing how to break it up into smaller chunks or levels. Sounds a lot like a video game to me. People who play video games are practiced at having a big picture in mind, a huge ultimate goal, and then figuring out how to take on individual levels with individual bosses and level up. They're used to using their resources, and they're used to doing small side quests to make them better and stronger at accomplishing the big picture. So this is huge. This is really one of the biggest ways that my college students have failed in the past. Not that they're not brilliant, not that they're not wonderful humans, but they fall down sometimes on being able to take on a big task and break it up into chunks. And video games are absolutely one of the most helpful ways that we can learn that process. Speaking of finding and using resources, this is huge. Both in and out of game players are able to do this. They go through their levels, they go through their quests, they go through their games, and most of the time there is some search for other help that they need, whether it's objects or potions or other players or some secret code. Whatever it is in the game, they usually have to go out and search and find some resource in order to be successful. And the same thing is true in a college setting. They have to be able to find things like the writing lab or registration, or where do I go to find the schedule, or meet with an academic counselor, or whatever those things are. And it's really the same skill set that's being used to find and then use your resources, and know that using resources is a valuable thing to do. So this is another skill and another way of thinking that totally generalizes over to college. And finally, video games set people up for nothing short of true education. I've got a couple things here. So one of the big things is that when you've got a kid who's been allowed to play, whether it's video games or other things, but they've been allowed to play and have a lot of time to make those kinds of choices and to do what they want to do, they are learning how they learn. That's really, really important. It is just so obvious with my students by the time they get to college, if they've had experience in knowing how they learn best. The students who do the best in class already know that they need to read things, or they need to talk about things, or they need to write the notes by hand, or whatever it is. It's really important for success in college that they know how they learn. And that's part of true education. It's education about themselves. And they get that from playing video games. It's also a matter of doing something for the intrinsic joy of it. You can tell in a college classroom which students are there because they genuinely want to be, and this is the next step in their own personal goals, versus the students who are being forced to for one reason or another. So when you've got a kid who intrinsically loves video games and they know what that feels like, they're much less likely to waste time and money in areas of their life where they don't feel that, because they know what it is. They know what it feels like. Also, true education is not just memorization. True education is building creativity. It's curiosity, really. It's problem solving. It's looking at problems and thinking, how can I be a part of this? And how can I be creative, and divergent thinking? And it's optimism. It's going back to a problem even if you fail. It's higher level thinking and engagement. And all of these things, even while you might be failing in terms of not solving that problem, or while you're learning really what the problems are even. And all of those things are true of players who are playing video games. We learn how we learn. We learn what it feels like to have intrinsic reward and satisfaction, not just a grade, not just the gold mark, not just for the sake of memorization. So video game play actually is true education and sets kids up for having a better and better college experience when they get there. This is where you can find more of me, Roya Dato. And don't forget to like and subscribe. See y'all later.